Like,
Huh?
no, is anyone sitting there?
No, nobody is sitting here.
You are.
Yes, okay. All right, we're live. We're live. Well, good morning, everybody. I have some wonderful news for you today. Do you know that the same power and presence that put the galaxies into their spin, the same power and presence that inspires the bud to blossom, is the same force that works within each and every one of us. And it's what helps us transform hatred into love and judgment into compassion. So with that, we will sing our theme song. I am free, I am unlimited. There are no chains that bind me. I am free, I am unlimited. Right now, right now. I am free, I am unlimited. There are no chains that bind me. I am free, I am unlimited. Right now, right now. And Susan will read our daily word and do announcements for us.
Okay. Our daily word for today is self-acceptance. I am uniquely me. The world may identify me with a label such as parent or child, wife or husband, employee or manager. Each label is only a descriptor of a role I play. It is not who I am. I am more than my duties or responsibilities, more than my gender, more than my position in life. I am a spiritual being, special and unique, one of a kind. I embrace who I am in body, mind, and spirit. I watch for self-judgment or self-criticism that hinders my divine expression. By being who I am, I make a valuable contribution to the world around me. I am confident of my divine gifts, and I share them generously. I accept and give thanks for my uniqueness, recognizing my special qualities and shining my bright light brightly. I have different glasses today. Sorry. From 1 Corinthians 7:7. Each has a particular gift from God, one having one kind, and another a different kind. Our affirmation again, I am uniquely me.
I am uniquely me.
And for our announcements, I believe we have only one, unless somebody wants to wave their hand at me. Next week is our potluck and birthdays for February.
Nice.
So please think of a wonderful dish to share.
Yes. Do we have February birthdays? Do you know?
We do. I think, yes, I didn't get them in my brain yet.
Yeah. Okay.
But yes, we have them in every month, I believe.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, my talk today is called Creative Mind, and it's inspired by the book by Ernest Holmes, Creative Mind and Success. That's one of those books I like to just reread a lot because it's amazing. And I always get an aha moment out of it. Every single time I read it, something different. I always highlight different things. And I have to, even if I see something I have highlighted before, I'll have to re-highlight it with a yellow to like make it stand out, right? It's interesting. In another couple more reads, the whole thing will just be highlighted. I'll have to buy a new book or get it digitally so I can change it. In the book of John, chapter 14, hi there, Doris. In John 14, Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he says, "The words that I speak are not just my own, but my Father who abides with me does these works." There is a creative force that is always at work through us, a creative force that is always at work in the universe. Jesus called this force Father. And he went so far as to say that everything that he did was the Father working through him. And without the Father, he could do nothing. Okay? He could do nothing. So everything that came through him was the Father. Okay? Not just the super miraculous stuff. Everything. John called this force God. And he went on to define God as being light and life. And it was the light and life that was in every single person, and it was what created every single thing that we see. And he says that there was not one thing that was created that did not come from this force. Everything that we see is from the light and the life that is God, okay, that creative force. He went on to say that those who could understand this, those who could really comprehend this, God would make them sons of God. Now, Jesus was able to accomplish this. Jesus was able to really embody the understanding that everything that he did was God working through him, everything. Paul called this divine force several different things, but he added to this mind, okay, divine mind. And that's when he said, if you would but let the same mind in you that was also in Christ Jesus. Okay? So that was divine mind. That is that everywhere presence of God. And when we let that in, then we can start doing the great things, right? When we really align ourselves with that force. So it's been called Father, it's been called God, it's been called light and life, it's been called divine mind, it's been called Great Spirit. We could sit here and probably come up with another 30 names just between us, okay? Been called a lot of things. Now, we are made in the image and likeness of this Father, love and light, okay, divine mind. Okay, we are made in that image. Now, we can think and we can feel and we have consciousness, right? A lot of the times we may have consciousness, we may have awareness. So, if we're like what we come from, that means that the Father, light and love, the divine mind, okay, God, that has consciousness too. Now, this was one of the hardest concepts for me to really buy into when I got into New Thought, because I came from a religious upbringing where God was like way out there. And it was like Zeus, right? Seriously, I was raised in a religion where God was like this white-haired, white-bearded guy someplace far away. And so for me to come to embody the understanding, or at least start the process, that this consciousness is everywhere present and also working through me, you know, it was a little hard for me at first. But we're like what we come from, and God is that consciousness. We are to our own life what God is to the universe. So God created the universe, and God created us to be creators. We are always creating, all the time. Jesus said, there's nothing. Without the Father, I can do nothing. Okay, there's not a thing, right? Not even just scratching his head. Everything that he does or did was the Father working through him. Okay? Everything that we do, everything is the Father also working through us. We're the temple through which God works. Now, I love this demonstration, and I forgot my water pot or jug today, but I want you to imagine this, right? You have a little cup, all right, a little shot glass, okay? It's a little clear shot glass. And then you have a sink, right? A sink full of water. And you can just go like this with a shot glass, right? And you can hold the shot glass up, and there's God. So let's say that water represents God, right? So here we have this cup, little shot glass full of water. But that's not the whole picture. The whole picture actually is when you take this cup full of water and put it in the sink full of water. Okay, the cup then has water in it, but it's completely surrounded by it, right? Okay, we're completely, always, every moment, surrounded by the presence of God. There's a field of God around us. And there are scientists who study this, and they call it the God particle or the field. Okay, but it's everywhere around us. There's no place we can run to get away from this. So it is everywhere. So there's no separation between us and God except what we ourselves can perceive. Okay, in our wild misperceptions, right? We can perceive a great separation, but it doesn't mean that it's true, because we're always swimming in God, and God is always within us also. So we have God, and then we have the activity of God, which is how God is working through our lives. Okay, so God is this everywhere presence, and then there's the activity of God coming through each and every one of us. Ernest Holmes said, "We should think of God as the Great Spirit whose sole impulse is to love, freely giving of himself to all who ask and refusing none." Refusing none. So the universe always says yes. Yes, 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 yes to everything that we ask for. And Jesus gave us this instruction, okay? Ask, believe, be enveloped by what you desire, and receive. In this group, or in the church in general, right? I get a lot of emails because we stream, so we have some distant friends also who are part of our group, right? But even just having a website and stuff, the most frequently asked question that I get, because I do get questions every week, right? But the most frequently asked question I get is, I'm asking, I'm believing in it, but that's not what I'm receiving, right? I have somebody who'll say, I've asked for a really great job, but that's not what I'm receiving. I keep ending up against a brick wall, right? Or I'm asking for good relationships and I'm not getting those. Okay, so this is something that I know I've asked myself that before too, right? I felt like I was focused on something, I was asking for a particular thing, but I was getting what I didn't want, not what I did want. What I found out was that I was asking for something, and then I was being enveloped by something else. Okay, ask, believe, be enveloped by it, receive it. Okay, I would ask for success, I would believe in it for a little while, but then I would start being enveloped by my prior programming. Okay, I'm not going to succeed. This will be too hard. How is this supposed to happen? I need somebody to do it for me, right? And that was the underlying current in my emotional field. Okay, not being able to do something. You know, with our words, we can ask for things and not mean it in our heart. Okay, we can ask for things. We can say things to people that we don't mean, right? They're just words. Okay, so we can actually be at great conflict within ourselves because we think we're asking for one thing, but we're embodying something else. I will have people who've asked me, and I've asked myself the same question too, okay? Well, I can't have success because this bad thing happened in my life. How am I supposed to get around this bad thing? You know, my parents couldn't send me to a good college, or I'm not tall enough, okay? Or there's an excuse, right? That feels like a big condition in our life, right? And I had oh gosh, I had so many excuses, right? I can look back and just think hundreds and hundreds of excuses why I couldn't have the thing I wanted, right? The thing is all of those excuses are just conditions, and a condition is only an effect. It's an effect of what we've been creating, okay, with our thoughts. Jesus said, "It is done to you even as you have believed." So it's our way of thinking that builds or creates the mold for whatever it is that Spirit is going to create for us. We're always creating all the time, every moment. And that creation comes from our feelings about things, and our feelings come from our thoughts. But think about it, we're always feeling something, right? All the time we feel something. Right now, you're feeling something, okay? It may be, like I feel relaxed because I don't have to be home, or I feel a little anxious because I have a lot of things I have to do this afternoon. I mean, we're all feeling something different right now, right? I'm kind of feeling like, well, guy, what are people going to think about this idea, right? Okay, but I've thought about this a lot myself, and I'm not just throwing this out there lightly, okay? Our thoughts are connected to our feelings, and our feelings really are creating things for us. All we have to do is learn to see how that's actually happening in our lives. Okay, and what happens is we have habitual ways of thinking that we're not aware of. Okay, you've heard the phrase, "What you think about, you bring about," right? And a lot of teachers like to say that, and I love the quote myself, "What we think about, we bring about." Thinking always causes a certain way of feeling in our body. And so if I'm thinking I can't be a success at something, or if I'm thinking I have a limitation, that makes me feel not so good, right? Where if I'm thinking that something will be super easy, if I'm thinking that I'm right on the money about something, that is going to make me feel different too, right? Our thinking then causes us to have the different feeling. Whatever that feeling is being created then by the divine mind in our life. So we're always feeling something. We're always feeling something. Now, even when I thought I was having good thoughts, like I used to go do all these events, right? They were like healing arts festivals. And I would participate in these festivals. And on the half-hour drive or whatever out there, the whole time I would be affirming, this is going to be a great day. I'm going to meet all these new clients. I'm going to sell all the stuff I'm bringing to sell. It's going to be a great day, great day, great day. Now what happened 9 times out of 10 is I'd get to this event, there'd be more practitioners than people coming in to visit the event. We'd end up just visiting with each other. I'd go home that day, and where maybe I had some fun and I met some new people, it would have cost me money to be there. Okay? And I wouldn't have made any new clients. Okay? So I thought about this. I would tell myself, well, you know, I did all this stuff right. I was thinking right, that I would be a great afternoon. I was thinking that. That's what I did. What is the problem with this whole spirit and creative mind crap? Right? That's what I would think. It was a load of crap. Okay? Hi. What I did, and I took a really, really honest look at what I was thinking about, okay? I would affirm success, but I would have this event that was 4 hours on a Saturday. The whole previous week, it would be, how's this going to work? How am I ever going to do this? Nobody's supporting me in this. Why don't blah, 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 blah? Okay, that was my underlying feeling. And as years came between these events and my own growth, what I also discovered was I was invited to participate in really big events. I would always say no to those events because there were people from the Inland Empire in Southern California who were really famous who were going to be there, and I saw them as competition, and I didn't feel good enough to be in their presence. And I knew for sure that when I got there and I sat at my table, somebody else would be getting all the business, and I would be sitting there all by myself. Nobody would want to come see me, because there was some like famous person there, and I wasn't good enough. I wasn't in their class. I said no to every one of those events. I chose the small events where I was the most well-known. Okay, that's what I did. So I missed out on those opportunities because of my feeling of limitation. Okay, it was my thought of being limited that caused me to lose out on things. Okay, that's how our thoughts are creating in our world. That's how our feelings are creating in our world. They're guiding us, right? We make choices based on how we're feeling, okay? Remember, the universe always says yes. No matter what I was feeling, the universe would never, ever, it didn't intervene one time and say, really, you really ought to just sign up for this big event. People would love you. You're really good at what you do. It never tried to intervene and convince me I was making a wrong choice. It said yes, yes. Go ahead and quit that. Go ahead and feel like a failure, right? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, it doesn't want to correct us. It doesn't think that we need to be corrected, okay? Now I know, and I've worked with clients for 20 years in holistic healing ways, right? And just all these different ways. Nobody would ever intentionally choose suffering, right? We don't consciously and intentionally choose to have something bad happen in our life, okay? We just don't do that. That all comes from the unconscious part of ourselves, okay? The part of ourselves that does not have awareness. The part of ourselves that is running on an old program. And if it is a program that's causing limitation and failure, feelings of failure, it's a bad program that we picked up, okay? Because we were born into this world with a spirit of love and power and discipline. That's what we were born with. That's what God put us here with. That was what was our internal programming, so that we could move in this world and in God, live and move and have our being, so that we were constantly expressing something that would make us the brightest version of ourselves, okay? Instead of making us feel bad about ourselves. Okay, so it's just bad programming. It is lack of awareness, that's all. Lack of awareness, lack of consciousness. Remember, we live in a conscious universe. We live in a universe that's filled with awareness. And we're not matching up to what our potential is when we are unaware, okay, when we are unconscious. So we want to just get our consciousness back, that's all, that we can line up again. So all limitation just comes from the unconscious mind. There's only one force in this universe, and it always says yes. Remember, we cannot serve two masters. Remember, Jesus said, keep your eye bright, keep your eye single, keep your eye focused on God. That way we're always focused on love. That way we're always focused on the goodness that can work through us to come into this world. Okay, if we're focusing on any kind of limitation, we're focusing from a place of fear. We can't serve two masters. We can only serve love. We can only serve fear. Okay, but only one at a time. So we want to make a different choice. I love the metaphor of electricity, okay, for power, right? God is power, okay? God is a very, very big power that we can't even describe. Electricity is power. And you know, we have a description for electricity, but you know what? I don't really understand it. I know that it can do wonderful things in this world. It has the light in here for us. Because of electricity, we can read our books late at night and we don't have to use a candle, okay? Because of electricity, we have microwave ovens, we have refrigerators that can keep things cold. We have many, many, many wonderful, amazing things because of electricity. But the misuse of electricity, it can actually burn our house down, right? But it's still just a force that can be used for good. And when it's used for good, it adds amazing things to our life. It brings a lot of joyfulness and happiness into our life, right? When I'm laying in bed at night and reading my book, because I have a lamp next to my bed, I'm a really happy woman, okay? All because of that electricity. I don't know if anybody remembers a car from the 70s called the Pacer. Do anybody remember that?
Yeah.
It looked like a bubble, right? And I've never known anyone who was like, what a great car, right? There was like a funny car that people laughed at and pointed at, right? Well, I have an aunt, and she lives in Maryland now, but she used to live here in this area. Well, when she was moving back to the East Coast, she gave my Aunt Joy and my grandmother that Pacer. And eventually my husband sold it for them. And then one day we were driving in Mentone, and we saw this Pacer, and it was sitting like in a yard, and it had the hood taken off, and it was like full of dirt and flowers. It had been turned into a big garden, right? That's not what the car was made for, although I would say for a Pacer it's a vast improvement, okay? But a car is made to drive you around, right? Not to plant flowers in. You're misusing it if you decide to plant flowers in it instead, okay? We have this thing available to us. We have a lot of things available to us. We can either use them for what they're made for, and they work great for us, or we can use them for what they're not made for, and it can create chaos in our life, right? Okay, that's how God is. So we're enveloped in the Spirit, and it creates a mold by the thoughts that we're feeling, okay? So it creates our life by our feelings, okay? Because every thought that we have leads us either toward love or away from love. If we're acknowledging our inner power, if we're acknowledging that we have something amazing that works through us, we are more likely to make choices that help us to express our brightest self. We're feeling really good about ourselves. We're trusting what works through us. We'll say yes to things that maybe even sound a little scary. However, if we don't trust what works through us, if we're feeling insignificant and we're feeling limited, we may not say yes to those opportunities, right? We may consciously choose to pick something small because unconsciously we're being told we can't do the big thing. That is how our thoughts create our experience, okay? Because we're either choosing big, we're choosing bright, or we're choosing small and scared, okay? That's how our thoughts are working. So I'm reading this book, right? Creative Mind and Success. And I'm like, well, okay, I buy into all this. I do. I buy into it. I examined my own life. I examined my own experiences. So, well, what does it matter if we know, right, that our thoughts create our experience, right? I want to know what can I do about it, okay? So I'm going to tell you now what my own thoughts are about what we can do about it. Basically, we're retraining ourselves. Okay? Anytime we want to make a big change in our life, though, we retrain ourselves, right? If we want to change our diet and exercise program, we retrain ourselves. If we get a new job, we get retrained to do the job, right? We've retrained ourselves before, which means we can retrain ourselves again. Anytime we want to retrain ourselves, we can do that. Okay, so we retrain ourselves. And what we're doing is we're training ourselves to have consciousness, to have awareness of what choices we're making. Because if we ever say no to something because we're afraid, we're not conscious when we make that decision. Okay, we want to be conscious. Why would we say no? Is it because we believe we're small and limited? That is not a good enough reason to say no. We want to have consciousness, right? We want to know why we're saying no. Are we saying no because we really just don't want to do the thing or have the thing or be the thing? Okay, maybe with consciousness it shows us what we really want to do is say yes. Okay, and so go back to what Jesus said. Jesus said, ask, believe, be enveloped by your desire, and then receive it. Okay, that's what we do. So the first thing that we do when we're retraining ourselves is we ask. We ask for what we want. Now for most people this is really easy because we know what we want. And even if we're not clear on what we want, we know that basically we want goodness in our life, right? We want true abundance. We want the good health, the vitality. We want love in our lives. We want, prosperity. We just want goodness, okay? That true abundance. So we ask for that. The next part of this is to believe. We've got to believe that we can get this. Now this is where I did a lot of introspection, okay? Do I believe this, really? Am I buying into this? And what I thought is, I thought about all the times I've been stressed, all the times I've been worried, complaining, resentful, jealous. And what I discovered was when I was experiencing that, I created more of that. I created more feelings of limitation. So yeah, I buy into this because I've created myself misery, for myself misery, out of misery. But that's good because if anybody in this room, any of us have ever felt worried about something and it just kept creating more worry, we know this works. We just want to change what we're feeling, okay? We can feel joy and have the same kind of a creative experience, right? If it's been done, it can be done, right? Other people have created out of joy. Jesus created out of joy. Mother Teresa created out of joy. Okay, and they were both living the brightest version of themselves, right? That was their life to live. Mother Teresa, she chose how she was going to live her life, right? And so she had success there. She was able to be the brightest version of herself. Okay, so we want to believe. We want to believe. Ask for something, and we can remember, well, maybe I have created more stress out of stress, so I'm going to try choosing from a brighter emotion, okay? Joyfulness. We can't wish for success, but feel thoughts of failure. Okay, we can't. I tried it, it doesn't work. I'm just going to let you know so you don't have to go there, okay? All right, we don't want to go back to the habit of feeling limited. That's just what I'm trying to say. So we ask, we believe, then we have to be enveloped by what it is we desire. Now to me, this is the step that has the most processes in it, okay? Because to be enveloped by something means to be completely surrounded by it, right? We're enveloped in God. So we want to be enveloped by what we desire, okay? Because that's what's being created. It's coming through us. It's all around us. And being enveloped by something just means imagining we already have it. Okay? Like every time I order a book off Amazon, I'm all excited, even before the book gets to my house. Because I know it's coming and I'm excited and I'm imagining what it'll be like to read this book that will change my life. Okay, right? That's how I look at every book. It's going to be a life changer. I just know it. To be enveloped by something means we have to think about only what we do want. And this is what I find challenging, right? If I want to have success, I cannot allow myself to think about failure. Okay, if I want to create goodness in my life in a big, bright way, I cannot think about limitation. Okay, so we have to focus on only what we want, not on what we don't want. To be enveloped by our desire, we have to remember that God works through us as that inspiration that is guiding us to say yes and guiding us to say no, right? Try this on for size. I want you to repeat this, okay? What I want has to come through me. What I want has to come through me. What I want has to come through me. I had a big aha moment when I finally said it like that to myself not too long ago. I'd never actually said that before. I'd always read, God works through us, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, God works through us, God works through us. But when I put it that way, I realized I can't just watch TV all the time. So, okay, what we want has to come through us. So we ask, we believe, we let ourselves be enveloped so we can receive. And this includes activity. Okay, being enveloped by the belief we already have something means we have to act like we already have it. Okay, like we're getting there. We're preparing for it as if it's absolute truth. Activity is what gets the energy moving. I discovered that I can't ask for prosperity and sit in front of the TV the rest of the day, right? There's no activity there, right? We ask for a certain thing, and then we have to let ourselves take the steps that we're being inspired to take. We want to be enveloped, act like we already have it. You've heard the joke, right, where somebody prays to win the lottery, and God says, well, would you at least buy a lottery ticket? Okay, that's the activity. Somebody who prays to win the lottery and doesn't even bother to go buy a ticket, right? They're still choosing failure. They're still choosing limitation. They don't even go buy a ticket, okay? You know, I always come up with my best ideas when I'm doing something else. In fact, when I'm working on a sermon, I have to keep a notebook because I come up with a lot of other ideas for other stuff while I'm working on this. And I'm like, oh wait, I have to write this down. Okay. Okay, we come up with bright ideas when we're active, okay? And it's either mentally or physically, it doesn't matter, but there's an active process that we always want to participate in. Ernest Holmes said, the world likes action. Action is life. Be interested in life if you want life to be interested in you. Act in life and life will act through you. Okay, act. I had a very interesting conversation with my son not too long ago. He is very motivated when it comes to playing his drums, and he plays music for hours almost every single day of the week. He's very enthusiastic. He's very excited, okay? And I was talking about how he's not the one seeking to play the music. The music is seeking to come through him, okay? That it is his high level of energy, his high level of enthusiasm that draws a music that has that high level of energy and high level of enthusiasm, right? When I started playing guitar, wasn't all that enthusiastic about it. I only play guitar so I could accompany myself singing, right? And so what came through guitar for me was never as big and bright as what comes through for Adam on the drums. Now what's interesting is when I said this to him, he kind of got this thoughtful expression on his face, and I was like, oh. See, we've all experienced that when we've been doing something that we felt excited about, and it seemed to do the work through us, right? Whether it's painting or remodeling a house or writing a story or working with healing or anything we feel excited about, teaching classes, just, I don't know, arranging a party, you know, coordinating a wedding, just whatever that is that we feel excited about. It feels like that thing is doing it through us. Like we didn't have to work hard at all. Like we maybe put a lot of work into it and we were really, really busy, but it's the kind of busy that makes us forget to eat lunch. Okay, it's the kind of busy that when we look at the clock and it's like 8 o'clock at night, and we're just like, oh, I really should go home and get some rest, right? We've all had that experience, and it's that thing working through us, okay? Because that spirit, that force is ready to work through us and wants to work through us with that level of creative expression, okay? That comes from activity. That doesn't come from being bored, right? Boredom is never going to activate any kind of inspiration in us, right? Being bored, being lethargic is going to dull what comes through our mind. And so I know recently I've really tried to focus on what activity means in my own life. If I find myself getting bored, I get up and fold laundry or do dishes or something, just so I'm moving again, okay? We don't want to sit around bored. Don't worry about outward appearances. This is also part of our activity. If we're worried about outward appearances, if we have that worry, we're limiting ourselves. Remember, the appearances are just the effects of creativity, what has been created. That's all. It's just an expression. I thought of this example in my head, right? You take a Sharpie marker, you draw all over the wall, right? The wall is the effect of the Sharpie marker. You don't yell at the wall, right? You don't get mad at the wall for having black marker sprayed all over, or drawn all over it, right? It's the marker and the little hand that held that marker that is the cause, right? And so the black marker on the wall is just the effect. It can affect our lives, right? I mean, it can't stop us from doing something. It's just an effect. They don't control us. It may feel that way because we have an underlying feeling of limitation. So we may feel limited. We may feel like there's a condition controlling us, okay? But that's because of an unconscious feeling of limitation. I decided to Google people who had overcome like tremendously awful circumstances, right? And Myrtle Fillmore was actually somebody I thought of. Myrtle Fillmore and her husband Charles Fillmore started the Unity movement, okay, which is healing through the power of prayer, accomplishing anything through the power of prayer. She was dying from tuberculosis, right? But she healed herself through the power of prayer, and she lived into her 80s. More recently, there's a lady named Anita Moorjani, and she wrote a book called Dying to Be Me. She actually died in the hospital. Her body was filled with cancer tumors the size of lemons. She had her death experience. She came back. You know, a few days later, they tested her. The cancer had disappeared, right? Okay, she overcame death. She overcame a body that was dying. I love to watch motivational speakers. I love to listen to motivational speakers and ministers. And what's interesting is I'm surprised at how many of them came from really difficult circumstances. There were some of them actually came from homelessness. They overcame homelessness, right? Now they have million-dollar empires and they're teaching other people how to help other people. Okay, so they had that, and I just thought, well, they've changed their circumstances. It was just a condition. That's all it was. It was just an effect, and they changed it. Now, I use the term overcome because overcome, when we say, oh, I overcame this, it makes it sound like we won this great battle, right? But we really don't actually have to overcome anything. We change the effects of conditions in our life by asking, by believing, by being enveloped in what it is we desire, and then we let ourselves receive it. We take action, and we just let the universe exceed our expectations. There is an unlimited force that works through us all the time. There's nothing that we want that is bigger than what this force can handle. The force created the universe, right? Anything we're dealing with is very small compared to that. Okay? But it's the same thing. It's the same life and light. It's the same God. It's the same Father presence. Okay? To envelop something, we want to remember to not struggle against it, against something. Struggling means we're seeing limitations. Struggling to make something happen means we don't think God is there, that God's not handling it. When I really got to have the experience of letting Spirit work through me, for me, when I was pregnant, because you cannot rush a baby, right? A baby is going to develop how it's going to develop. I had my son, and he appeared in our lives almost a month early, okay? So when I had my daughter, I was just assuming both pregnancies would be identical, right? I don't know. I think some of us do that. And she came just around her due date. There was nothing I could do about it. I just had to just let it be how it was going to be. So I did the activity, right? I bought baby clothes, and I ate healthy, and I walked, and I just, did the stuff that I wanted to do while I was pregnant, just to make sure that pregnancy went very well, right? So I did the activity. I didn't have to overcome the pregnancy, right? We just let it happen. See God is everywhere present. That's also how we're enveloped, by seeing God everywhere present. We're not going to be the ones to divide what God has united, right? And we're all in this together. We're all connected, right? We can't divide this, right? We want to see the connection, see God everywhere present. If we see a situation and we say, oh, this situation looks bad, it looks unpleasant, it looks unenjoyable, I don't want to go that way. I want this way over here where there's ice cream and cotton candy and unicorns and rainbows, right? That's the way for me. When we see God everywhere present, what we realize is that we can move through those unenjoyable situations. Maybe it's on the other side of that, where we learn to express the brightest version of ourselves. Okay? Maybe that's where it is, right? And we just move through it. But we can do that because we see God as everywhere present. We also want to stop talking about limitation. I've really been working on this one. Because my kids will say to me, Mom, can I have this thing? I'll say, we can't afford that. We can't afford that. And you know, my kids aren't the only ones. I'm around teenagers fairly frequently, and it surprises me how many of these teens will say, yeah, we're broke, we can't afford to do that. Like, oh, so I'm not the only one programming my kids, right? What I've been learning, and my daughter actually inspired this idea, but what I've been learning, I'm trying to remember to say, if we can't really afford it, right? To say, we should plan for that. That's a good idea, okay? Because I know I'm really I'm really using limited thinking and limited words and sharing them with my children when I keep saying, we can't afford that, okay? Or I can't do this, I can't do that, right? Even when I'm just talking to myself, right, by myself, I don't want to talk with a limited thinking because that limits what God can do through me. Sometimes we may be around people who have limited thinking and we can't do anything about what they're talking about, right? If we're around like family or somebody and they're going on and on about the economy or how scary things are or how there's going to be this war here or this there or people are dying in the snow and it's very scary for them, right? What we know about this, okay, is that's not who we really are, right? We're unlimited beings in a body. And somebody who is stuck in a place of fear, they're also an unlimited being in a body. They just happen to be telling a story that's not serving their highest good at that moment. We can do a denial for them, right? Do a denial and an affirmation. I'll say, this is what I like to say in my head. I know you're telling a story that scares you, but that's not who you really are. Who you really are is an unlimited being in a body. You are filled with power and force that is here to create goodness. Okay? I say that to myself when I find myself chattering about, negative things going on in my own life, right? No, that is not who I am. I'm an unlimited being in a body, right? Yeah, maybe right now I have this horrible knee pain, okay? But that pain is not who I am. That's not who I am. It's a condition of my body that I'm using for this trip right now. And if it's hurting me, I'm going to send it lots of love, right? I'm just going to do that. I don't know what else to do, right, about certain things. So I just send it love, okay? So we see the power and presence in ourselves. We see the power and presence in everybody else. That's seeing God is everywhere present, right? When we see God in every other person, right? God is everywhere present. Then we receive, okay? Ask, believe, be enveloped, then we receive. Receiving sounds really, really simple, right? But I am surprised at how many people, myself included, will be ready to receive and then say, well, how am I supposed to make this happen? Okay? If we say that about trying to receive something, like I ask for prosperity, I believe, I see myself wealthy and having everything I need. Okay, how am I going to make this happen? Okay? We block our being able to receive because we just limited ourselves because we think we're the ones having to come up with the idea how to make this all work out so we can receive it. But did you know that just about every person who's ever accomplished anything great, they didn't know how they were going to do it. They just took the first step. God starts working through us. That's how we do great things, is God is working through us. Right? We can only do what our own experience can show us how to do. We do great things because God is working through us. We do great things because we take the first step and then God gives us the intuition to know the next thing to do and then the next thing to do and then the next thing to do. To say yes here and maybe no there. Okay, to go into this new situation that we maybe would have worried about trying before, but now we're doing something, we don't know how to do it, and so we think, well, I just feel like I should do this, maybe I'll just go and see what happens, right? That's how we receive. We assume the universe will do this for us in a surprising and delighting way that we have no idea how it's going to happen, right? So we allow ourselves to receive. Ask, believe, be enveloped by it, and receive it in a surprising and delightful way. Okay? Paul said, in him we live and move and have our being. Okay? God is everywhere present. God is working through us all the time. The thing that we want in our life, the thing that we want to embody, that is us. Okay, that is us. It's the energy that works through us. It's our thoughts, it's our feelings, right? God is the giver and the gift. And God is working through us. We're the channel God is using to have this experience right here, right now. Right here, right now, God has chosen each of us to have a certain experience in this moment. And we are each giving God a divinely unique experience. Okay, no matter how that looks. In God, we live and move and have our being. Everything that we want, everything we want to bring to us will come through us. Something that I like to do when I see somebody who's done what I want to do, okay, like a minister or like a writer, something like that. In fact, I recently met online a writer, and she had published this, self-published a book on Amazon. She's making like thousands of dollars a month. When I looked at her, I didn't get jealous. What I said was, that means me. That means me. Think about what it is that you want to have in your life, right? And then think about somebody else who's already done it. And say, that means me. Me. Myrtle Fillmore did it. Tony Robbins did it. Michael Bernard Beckwith did it. Right? Who else? Who's somebody else? Lucille Ball did it. Walt Disney did it. Thomas Edison did it. Okay? That means us. That means us. They don't even have to do what we want to do. Okay? Thomas Edison, he did something amazing. That means me. Say that with me. That means me. Okay. That power that works through us, it already knows everything. It cannot fail, and it knows how to begin the process that we need to begin. It creates everything we embody. Everything we embody. What are we embodying right now? What are we being enveloped in? In 1 Thessalonians, I'm almost done. I know this has been a long talk. But in 1 Thessalonians, Paul gave like 3 simple steps to just do all the stuff I just told you, okay? Paul just says, be joyful always. Because what happens if you're joyful all the time, right? You're embodying joyfulness all the time. You're embodying it as coming out into the world for you, right? Then he says, pray without ceasing. If we live in God we live and move and have our being, we're always connected to God. Now, our prayer is our request, right? We pray because we're asking for something. God's not a force that we have to flag down, like a parent running off, to work in the morning. It's like, wait, Mom, I wanted to ask you for this, right? We don't have to flag God down. God already is aware of every thought and feeling and request, everything that's going on with us. We are basically praying without ceasing. I don't see that really as an instruction that Paul is saying, why don't you try praying without ceasing? It's more like Paul is saying, you pray without ceasing. Think about that. So be joyful always, okay? Be careful with that. And then he says, in everything give thanks. When we are giving thanks in everything, we're seeing God everywhere present, that God's present in every situation, even the scary ones or the ones that feel limited, the conditions that feel limited. Okay, the unenjoyable paths as well as the enjoyable paths. God is everywhere present. We can find thankfulness somehow, not for a bad thing, but for God just being everywhere present and knowing that one day we'll have the awareness of how to move through that. Okay, that God is always working through us and that our brightest good is on the other side. Just this one thing, right? We'll get through it because God is always with us. This force created us with love. This force is at work in us all the time. And the highest expression of this force working through us is to allow it to work through us as love. Okay, to allow ourselves to embody the most amount of light possible in a body, right? The most amount of light possible. So our job is just to stop seeing the separation. And all of that just starts with our thoughts. Okay, just with our thoughts. So until next time, remember, you are a force for good. You are a light and you light the way. With every breath you take, with every beat of your heart, you are radiating light and love into the world around you. With everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is. Amen.